ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And Now, Bears Etc., brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
In the NFL, there are many faces in the organization, many adjusting, growing into invaluable employees, not just on the field, but off. And in the Bears organization, one of those individuals is head equipment manager Tony Medlin, joining the franchise in 1987 and rising to his current position in 1997. That's 37 years, nearly 4 decades with the Bears. And welcome in to episode 77 of the Bears Etc. podcast. Jeff Joniak here with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. And Tony is our special guest, the veteran head equipment man of the Bears, otherwise known as T-Med. His smiling face is always around this building. He has touched many lives. Tony, welcome to our podcast. And episode 77.
Thank you guys for having me, first of all.
Yes.
I'm really excited to be part of your podcast.
And, you know, it's just on the eve of the start of training camp. We got rookies coming in, vets coming in this week. Starting a little early, of course, because of the Hall of Fame game on August 1st and the induction of Devin Hester. So I don't know. I know you took some time off, but I don't know when you started getting back in the building, getting ready to go. How long does it take to prepare for training camp?
Well, we've really been preparing for training camp all the way back as far as April. And once we get our mini camp, our draft over, we get them going, getting prepared for that, and then we kind of start, put all our concentration over to training camp.
You know, you and I, we've worked together over half of our life. And, you know, I'm trying to think of what are the questions that I've never asked Tony Medlin, because there isn't a lot, because you and I talk pretty often. First of all, when you have a whole new group of rookies come in, how do you decide what numbers they're going to wear? How do you give them numbers? Do you give them the choice first?
You know, when it comes to the draftees, they usually are the first ones. I kind of give them their choice. And I do that. I really look and see, well, what jersey did he wear when he was back in college? And I usually kind of go from that angle. Or if there's a rookie that really has to have a certain number, we'll try to work with that rookie to try to get him that number. And that's kind of how we start off that.
Okay, then you have when I came to the Bears, the new guys on the team, we usually had lockers that were near the bathroom entrance. Now the locker room is a lot different. How do you choose the locker positioning of newly aboard players, everybody from Montez Sweat to Caleb Williams?
Well, what we normally do with that, we just take the player, we try to put the younger guys, kind of mix them in. They're closer to the vets, we call. And we do that so they can learn. They can, if they're around the vets can kind of help them out. They're pretty much all together all the time anyway. We usually try to put them in their locker room by position. And when they go to their meetings, they're together. And then when they come out of their meetings together, and if they're sitting by their lockers, here's a young player that may have a question for a vet player. And by giving them that opportunity to be able to be closer to the vet. A lot of times the young guys, they learn a lot really quickly. And so it usually helps the process of getting acclimated into the locker room and getting to know the players in a speedy situation.
Do you still have the rookies in a basement locker room?
No, that's
ended?
That's ended. Jeff,
and what was the genesis of that to begin with? You got to earn your way on, right?
It's on the way. One of them things that, you're in the bottom, so you start running your way up. You know what I mean? So that process is gone now, and I think is to you're looking back, things you change with time, and the rookies. It's not like they're rookies too much anymore. It's just like you come in and you're ready to play, and a lot of these players that come in, they're really ready. So it makes things a little bit smoother.
Tom always says this in reference to Tony Medlin. He uses it many times on this podcast and Bears Weekly. And Tom, what is it?
You only have 1 year to be young in the NFL.
Always credits you for that.
Believe me, that's one thing that has always stuck with me. And I just say, hey, rookies, they have to grow up quickly, but you still have that year to kind of get acclimated into this system, what is in the locker room, whatever it may be, but they have that 1 year.
This episode of Bears Etc. is brought to you by Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Tommy?
So, Tone, 1 year to be young. And so, again, just referencing back in my day, because I said you and I have been together now for well over 30 years, and a lot of things have changed in the locker room. So after practice, we used to put all of our stuff into a mesh bag. We used to tie it up, and we would put it in a hamper. Then you guys would come and get it. You would wash it and be ready for the next day of practice. So you don't have to teach guys that. Is there a process of teaching the rookies how to go about putting their laundry together after practice, or how to handle that? And it's a serious question, because when you talk about you and your group, you're talking about 100 guys per day, a couple times a day, that are using multiple hampers full of laundry.
Well, Tom, we start really back in April, or our off-season workout program. And I say we start training them then. And then even when the younger players come in late April, going into May, we start training them then. And we really start with player health and safety side of things. And the reason we always say player health and safety, whether it means laundry, whether it means a helmet, whether it means footwear, shoulder pad, to me, to all of us, that's player health and safety. And so we train our rookies, or we train any of our players that come through, to do the right thing, whether it means, gather their laundry and put it in the right places, or wear their helmet the correct way. If they have any issues with their footwear, we try to train them to say, hey, come to us and make sure we can help keep you safe. That's the most important thing. Even after post-practice, we collect player, footwear and shoulder pads, and we take and we sanitize them, and we making sure they're ready to go for the next day. So all that's part of keeping our athletes safe.
Well, it's got to be one of the most time-intensive jobs in this building, because you got to be open 24/7, basically, because guys are coming in super early. You got to beat the clock. You got to get there before them, right? You're going to leave late. When we were at training camp away, whether it was Platteville or up in Bourbonnais, and I'd be strolling over just to say hi to Tony. These guys are working. It's dark. I mean, the day's done, but not for them. I mean, it's rewarding, but it's a lot of hard work. Let's not minimize it. It's a labor of love, but the people that you have brought in, the gentlemen and the ladies that work with you, they work hard especially during training camp.
Oh, very much so, Jeff. It comes with the territory, and I always say, hey, you have to love what you do in any profession you may choose, and that's why we do what we do. And everybody, they're very comfortable with what they do, and they understand the workload that goes into this, because no matter what you do when you work around a football team, everybody has a little role they have to play, and we have to do it to our best of our abilities.
Tony, how important is it to you? Because we all had to get a start from somebody. Somebody had to give us a shot. Yours was in college. That you get to annually give young people a shot at getting a taste of life in the NFL by working with you guys.
Well, Jeff, believe me, and Jeff and Tom, it means a lot when any chance you get a chance to introduce young people to our profession, because no matter what, someone's going to have to do it. And by introducing that to the younger equipment managers, or anyone that may be interested into our profession, you have to start somewhere. And a lot of times people don't really understand the behind the scenes things, and you do everything you can to introduce them and let them understand what this profession is all about. So that's what we try to do, and we get a great enjoyment out of that.
Tony, your brother Ron was on the medical staff at the Baltimore Ravens for as long as you have been, and with the Atlanta Falcons and other teams. But why is Tony Medlin on the equipment side of it and Ron Medlin is on the medical staff side of it? And what was that separation between the two of you guys?
Well, he started back in college at North Carolina State, and he said he wanted to be an athletic trainer, and I said I wanted to be an equipment manager. And so that's the separation there, Tom. And Yeah, he went his direction when he went to college, and I went my direction when I went to college at North Carolina Central University. And, here we both are today. Everybody say, hey, well, how did that happen? And this is how it did happen. And he really fell in love with being an athletic trainer. And I fell in love being around the athletes as being able to help protect the athletes. And I say, well, this is a good way to do that. We both love the sports the way we loved sport. We just wanted to find a way to be around the sport, and this was our way of doing that.
You talk about the health and protection of athletes, and one of the most important equipment pieces is the helmet. And from my time of being there back in the 80s, you probably had two or three different versions of the helmet. I know there's more that has been introduced. Do you and your brother ever discuss that piece of it? Do you ever have conferences about the helmet? And how do you decide what helmet best fits the position you play?
Well, we do talk about it every once in a while. When I say every once in a while, he may ask a question, or I may ask him a question. He may ask me what I think about this helmet versus that helmet, and I share my thoughts. As far as the players choosing their helmet, we allow the players to choose their own helmet. It's kind of what works best for them. A lot of players, when they get to this level, they pretty much know what helmet they like to wear, and we just bring them in and educate them about the different helmets that we may offer. And again, at the end of the day, it's up to the athlete what helmet he wants to wear.
And there is a helmet room in your side of the building. They're all displayed. They're all different types. And so do you introduce them if they do have a question or they don't really know or they like to upgrade and really figure out a way to make sure they protect themselves as in all humanly possible? Do you get a lot of that? Do you show them the options?
Yes, we do. Jeff, to answer your question, we do show them the options. Me and my staff, we want our athletes to ask questions because anytime they get a chance to ask questions, that gives us a chance to help educate them about any of the equipment they're wearing. We do have a helmet room where we bring them in and we show them all the charts that we have to show about the helmets. We also have a footwear. We measure their feet. And we scan. We have a 3D foot scanner. We bring them in and we scan their feet. And a lot of times the players may not know what size shoe he wears, but that foot scanner tells us that. And it also kind of gives us a guide or gives us a way to say, hey, or gives us some suggestions what shoe that player should be wearing. And again, it gives us any opportunity to get a chance to educate the player. We do that.
Do players? This is a dumb question by me because I know the answer. The answer is yes. I was going to ask him, Tommy, do certain players have superstitions and they're non-negotiable?
Of course.
And so even with the type of jersey they're wearing, helmets, pads, you name it, or do you have to handle and address the superstitions?
Believe it or not, guys, in this era of players today, they're not as superstitious as they used to be.
Okay.
To be honest with you. I can remember Tom Thayer. I can remember Steve McMichael. I can remember Kevin Butler. I can remember
Tom Waddle.
Singletary. Tom Waddle.
With his crazy helmet.
I can keep naming names forever.
Yeah.
Those guys back then were very superstitious, but the guys today, I think they move too fast to be superstitious today. So.
What was Tom's superstition?
Well, Tom was Tom. Tom had quite a few. So.
First in the locker room.
Yes.
Long time. Well,
How much coffee did you make for Tom in your career?
That's exactly what I'm going to say, Jeff. Tom had to have his coffee. If the coffee wasn't made, would he make a noise? Believe me.
Yes, he would. Tom, was that the extent of your superstition? Just time of arrival and a cup of Joe?
Yeah, that's the whole thing kind of worked hand in hand.
Yeah.
I could always get there first, and I needed the coffee to be ready to be poured. And if there was no coffee, we had really limited supplies when I was playing for the Bears and Tony came aboard. So, yeah, we kind of let it be known a little bit more that we wanted our coffee made. And those guys had so many things to do, they had enough on their table.
When it's time to tackle some game day deals, then go with a grocer who's been part of Chicago since 1899. Jewel Osco, the official grocery store of the Chicago Bears.
Tony, the subject of shoe bottoms, because you probably have, about 6 to 10 different style of shoe bottoms that these players can wear nowadays. So when you talk about playing at Soldier Field, natural grass, then you talk about going into the second game of the year, sports turf in Houston, and then so on and so forth. How far in advance do you start addressing what types of shoes these guys should be thinking about? And then when you take into account the outdoor weather, how long do you start talking to those guys in the week about what they should be considering in terms of bottom of their feet?
Tom, what we do, if we're playing on the grass field, we'll start early in the week. We'll start telling them, hey, or we'll look at the weather and see if it's going to be in the rain. We'll look at if it's going to be dry. We'll just say, hey, you're going to be okay in what we consider what we call a molded bottom cleat, or if the weather's going to be rainy. We pretty much know the fields, pretty much where we go. And what I normally do on game day, myself and my staff, we'll walk out on the field, and we'll kind of walk the field and test the field, and we'll come back in the locker room and let the player know what footwear or what shoe he should be wearing that would best fit him to keep him safe out on the field. But we do start early enough in the week. We'll say, hey, we're gonna be playing on a grass field this week. We're gonna be playing on synthetic surface this week, and we pretty much know the footwear the player's gonna be wearing. These guys are good now. They know their footing pretty good today. And again, most of the younger guys, a lot of the guys are not used to wearing what we call a stud or screw-in cleat. We have to kind of educate them from that angle. But when you have a vet player, they pretty much know.
Do you have a game that you remember that a change of footwear during the game made a difference?
Well, I can go back a few years ago. We played the Seattle Seahawks over in Seattle. And
the snowy game?
It snowed, and they're not used to getting snow. And playing on an outdoor surface, we have synthetic grass or field turf. We use what we call a 3/8-inch cleat, and that worked for us. We didn't have any slipping going on, but I had to say they did. But we also won the game. That was the most important thing. We won the game, and I do think that had something to do with it. Because our guys weren't slipping around. And the one other game, I go back by 2 years ago when we played the 49ers when we had that big rain pour.
Oh,
and
yeah, season opener.
That game was one of those games to remember because all the rain came down at one time. And, hey, what should you do? You don't use the word longer cleat. You just have to use what's going to work for that field condition.
You've been there for Walter Payton's final season. That ended in the divisional round, lost to Washington, right? 87, Tom. 88 was the playoff game. You've experienced the Hall of Fame careers of Jimbo Covert, Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Steve McMichael, Dan Hampton, Brian Urlacher, Hall of Fame player and a great coach, Mike Ditka, and now Devin Hester going into the Hall of Fame with Steve McMichael. Not to mention then a bunch of other all-pro players. And not one of these guys have I ever heard them not say your name as being an impact person in there. Many as a mentor. Otis Wilson saying, Tommy, that he's one of us. He's one of our guys.
Of course.
So that gives me goosebumps because you have witnessed a lot. And you're in the inner sanctum of a locker room, a professional locker room, where what happens there stays there, right? And so the trust and what you've experienced, how do you capsulize all that in your career?
Well, Jeff, I look at it like this. When the players come there young, they're trying to make the right decisions. And a lot of times they may need a little help making some of those decisions. And when you get a chance to talk to them, not just about football, I don't know the football side of things, but life. When you get a chance, you get to talk to them about life and what you do here, start thinking about football after your career in this business in football. And you start thinking about things like getting them thinking about that. And anytime you can have a little bit of impact on their life, you feel like you've done a lot because that means a lot to me. I've had so many players call back or say, hey, Tony, thank you for what you've done for me. That really means a lot. But I think at the end of the day, it's just part of the locker room. Was the equipment guy, was the athletic trainer. We all have a little role where we kind of impact the players' lives. And to me, that means a lot because, it goes forever. It carries on forever.
Tight with Hester, right? You guys had a really unique relationship.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I look at Devin Hester. When Hester would come by my office, almost every day, right before most of his latter part of his career and right in the middle latter part of his career, he would come by my office and we would sit in my office and talk. And he wanted to. He would ask so many different things. Not just football, just about life in general. And a lot of his was like confidence. Can I do this? How about your career? Just all those things. So those are the things that kind of like, just kind of stand out to my mind about Devin Hester, who was very, very special in my life. And I said because who he really turned out to be. And no one expected Devin Hester to be in the Hall of Fame. No one expected that. When he was younger, no one expected that. Look at him these years later. Look where he's going. He's going to the Hall of Fame. And, that's pretty special. Even when me at the time, I used to talk with Hester. Nobody would think about a Hall of Fame at that time. But this player is going to be a great player. This player is a good player and good man on top of all of that. But it's just about the person he is, and that's really what stood out in my mind when I talked to those kind of players.
Tony, I'm in my 60s, and you still have the same impact on me when we're able to sit in your office and talk. But the reason I start with that is because I also, over the last 40 years for me, has looked at the impact, the influence, the requirements that you put on your staff at training camp. Because this isn't 4 guys working together. This is a group of 20 kids that are coming in, and they work from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. And, how impactful it is to you when you get a letter, you get a phone call, you find out the road of success that this kid has traveled through after the impact you've had on him. Because as much as a pro athlete can be impacted by you, some of these kids that need that person of respect in their life, I think that's pretty incredible as well. So how rewarding is that for you?
Yeah, Tom, is very rewarding because, some of my former, what I call ball boys or interns, they call back and say, hey, Tony, you know what? The time that you had us get up early in the morning, or the things that you had us doing, I'm seeing it now. I didn't see it as much then, but I'm seeing it now. It was very, very rewarding. I am so glad I did what I did when I was with you. And it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of responsibility. It taught me a lot of important things about life. So I just want to reach back and say thank you for that. So when I hear that from those guys, and, I have quite a few interns that have gone on and been successful, whether it's an equipment manager, whether they've been a sports agent or an attorney. You keep naming some of these kids what they've done since they've left the Bears.
The impact that you've had on the kids and all the people around you. I think one of the greatest things that you and the Chicago Bears do every year is the coat drive. And I don't want you to get off the air without talking about that, talk about the importance, because I know every year I go into my closet, I take coats, and I bring them up to Hallis Hall, and I put them in that cardboard box. And I think it's pretty rewarding when someone gets issued a winter coat for what they have to face in the challenges here in Chicago.
Well, Tom, you know what? It's very special to me. It's very dear to my heart. It was started by former equipment manager Gary Hager, and I wanted to keep the program going. And, here we are today, 30-plus years later. We're still doing this coat drive. And anytime you can get a chance to help someone or help keep someone warm during the winter months, that's very special because there's so many people out there, in the Chicagoland area that need. And anytime you get a chance to collect coats and you're going to have an impact on helping keeping them warm, that means a lot. So it's very fulfilling to be able to have the opportunity to do that. And obviously I think the Chicago Bears are being part of it. We keep pushing this coat drive from year to year, and believe me, and we always set our goal and hope we always reach our goal, but we could not reach this goal without, the fans or anyone that wants to donate a coat. Even from the media group, a lot of times they'll say, Tony, hey, when is the coat drive going? That means a lot because, they help tell the message. They help get the word out there. Hey, Chicago Bears coat drive is going. So that means a lot. And on players themselves, they want to know when it's going. And, it's a hard thing sometimes, Tom, Jeff, when you try to choose a player to be part of that, they get a little jealous and Tony, why didn't you ask me to speak about the coat drive? So, everybody's get really fired up about the coat drive during that time.
The Bears Etc. podcast brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears, and Vizzy Hard Seltzer. Flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Twice named the NFL's top equipment manager in the North Carolina Central Hall of Fame, a member of multiple committees on equipment-related issues, a Virginia McCaskey Award winner in 2017, the coat drive, the Super Bowls that you have witnessed, responsible for the 120 footballs used in the title game, and you've done that for the bulk of your career. Tom, did you know? I didn't know this. I discovered this. Do you know who interviewed Tony in 1987 to get into the NFL?
I do not know.
A young Roger Goodell. Explain that story. Explain that story and just encapsulating what you've accomplished in your career.
Well, I'm going to say it this way, Jeff. Roger Goodell was my first NFL contact.
Isn't that crazy?
That's I go back and look and say, wow.
And he was an administrative individual. He wasn't the commissioner yet.
Definitely wasn't that at that time. And just to be part of that, I mean, that's pretty special. And I go back and, I thank people that has helped me get to where I am today. And, he's one I never will forget. He's one I always will thank.
Do you remember what he asked you?
I remember, Jeff. But anyway, it was pretty special. The bottom line was pretty special. Yeah. I go back and say, hey, he wasn't a commissioner then, but I look at it today, and even today, I'll go by and he it's just like yesterday. He always walk up to me and give me the biggest hug or the biggest handshake. No matter what it is, he always does that, and it means a lot.
There is constant change in football. From the roster, it's constantly churning, and then when things aren't, right, or somebody leaves, there's a new change. There's new coaches, new administration. How hard is that?
Well, Jeff, I look at, to me, it comes with our world.
Yeah.
You just adjust because every coach is different, every general manager is different, everybody's different. You just take and do, whatever they want. You just do it. Adjust to whatever may need to be done. And to me, it's more like a routine to me now. But I think there's another thing is, Jeff, you have a chance to meet so many people, and it's another chance when somebody comes along, another group comes along, you get a chance to meet them. So
you met a lot of people.
Leaving our business, life goes on, but it's just that it's just like relationships, they last forever, and those people are very special. People that have been here, people that are here, they're very special. So,
Tony, you, I, and Jeff, as long as we talk about, we've been around the NFL, and none of us have experience with hard knocks. So, has it added anything to your preparation for training camp? And what do you think of the whole? What do you think about getting ready for the whole experience?
Well, Tom, I look at it like this. It comes with it. You just get ready and do it. Whatever they need, you try to make it go easy because, in so many words, they have that NFL shield on their head too. So, they're part of this family, and you just try to make it easy. They have a job to do. You try to help them do their job. And I think so far it's been really, really good because, they're kind of group from the way they presented themselves to me. They just kind of want to be way, way behind the scene and not be seen. And we've kind of created a little special place for them daily because certain players are going to be mic'd per day. And I have a table set up for them in the back of the equipment room, so they'll kind of be out of the way. The players will never see them, and they will never see the players. But, again, we just try to make it easy for them because they have a job to do, and we want to help them get it done. But they also want to stay out of our way and make it work very smoothly.
So, Tony, now, okay, that's hard knocks. And now let me go fast forward to the international game. You have an international game at an indoor stadium. You could have an international game at an outdoor stadium. Do you have any preference of playing either like an indoor stadium, exactly what type of equipment you wear, or does it provide any challenges for you because you are out of your equipment room for that period of time?
I look at the international game, to me, just like a regular game now. And I say a regular game because the NFL, they've made it so easy to operate on the international level versus being in the States. And to me, I kind of balance it almost just like a regular home game or a regular road game, more say. And to me, it's no more than, trying to, get things that you're going to take over there and you can't forget anything. That's the hardest part because you're not going to be able to get that. You're not going to be able to get that right away over in, if you're over in London, you're not going to get it. So you got to make sure you have everything that you're going to need and more than what you need, and you make sure you bring it and you have it with you.
Draw up a great game plan of savings with Jewel Osco for your digital coupons. Download the app for a fully loaded lineup of hot deals on produce, salty snacks, tasty beverages, and more. The dynamic of a locker room is something you also have to take the temperature of, right? You got to make sure everything is copacetic in there. Things are going well the way you would like it, right? And there are rules of the locker room. This is a young football team. Is it easier with a younger football team and now with a rookie quarterback that's going to come in, Caleb Williams? How does that dynamic change that locker room?
Well, I look at, again, young players, you just help them get acclimated into the locker room. And whatever you can do to make it easier for them, you do that. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to help them be better. You're trying to help them be in position to do the things they need to do to be able to operate from day to day. And you try not to create situations where there's a wrinkle here, there's a wrinkle there. You try to make it a routine thing so they can get acclimated into the system of being in a routine thing in our locker room. So whether it means, hey, make sure this athlete has his footwear every day. Make sure this athlete has his laundry loop every day. How does his jersey fit? Make sure it fits him perfectly. Little things like that, because you want the player to feel very comfortable and not have to worry about that. Or if something goes wrong with his helmet, you want to be in position to make sure he can, he doesn't miss any time. You want to be able to keep things going.
The locker rooms, when you first started, obviously on the heels of a Super Bowl winning team with the personality bigger than maybe possibly ever in the NFL collectively, what that dynamic was like when the media wasn't in there. Then you go through many decades of different types of locker rooms, including the 06 Super Bowl era team, and they like to have fun in there. We know that. Have things toned down a little bit, or do they sprout it up at any time? Something unique.
I put it like this: these players in the locker room today, they have fun.
Yeah.
They have a lot of fun, but they have fun in a different way than that group way back then. But again, I think it's great for the locker room when you see the players. Just remember, they're kids, so they do a lot of things that kids do. Whether it's playing a video game, whatever they can do to make things fun. And when they have a little downtime, they do what's kid things. But they have a lot of.
Who's the biggest jokester to you? Who always was trying? I mean, I'm going to think Charles Tillman, prankster. But were there others during these almost 40 years?
Well, believe me, Charles is the one that stand out the most. Okay, and he had something for everybody. But
gosh!
But you know what? The best thing to get Charles, you return it. You know what I mean?
So you got a little prankster in you too?
Yes, indeed, I do.
Really, Tom? I didn't know this.
We had our days at training camp, and he can tell you. So it was a lot of fun.
I can't imagine what those would be. I know you're not going to share them. So
let me ask one more question.
Yeah,
sure.
Because I've always, Tony, do you think cell phones have changed the locker room at all? Because back in the days when we were in old Hallis Hall, we had no cell phones and we had 2 rotary dial phones hanging on the wall. Now there's cell phones during that downtime. Has that changed the dynamic of the inner locker room at all?
I think it has, Tom. I say it because, again, that's the new way of communicating. Nobody answers the telephone. They communicate by texting, or they communicate by, hey, their schedules. The phone is just like a Bible. You know what I mean? You got it with you all the time. Or it's just like carrying a notebook. You got it with you all the time. And to me, that helps. I found myself, you know what I mean? I found myself communicating with the cell phone to my younger guys. That's the only way they can get it. By communicating through texting, whatever other social media ways we can do things, we do that. And but I think the only thing I don't like, they may not talk as much directly to each other, mainly because that cell phone kind of takes that away. And I see guys a lot of times, just sitting there on their cell phones, but you're really not carrying that conversation that we used to carry years ago. Everybody just sit around talking, but that cell phone kind of takes the place of that a little bit.
I also want to finish up by saying, I've only been focusing on the locker room, but let's not forget the practice field is also your domain with your staff. You guys are running. You guys are immediate because there's a lot of demands. Practices are shorter. They're faster. They're trying to get done in a finite amount of time. We shouldn't forget about that fact. Like, how big is the practice field?
Jeff, to me, the practice field is the most important piece of that day. And I say that because the coaches only have so much time to do what they do. The players only have so much time to do what they do. And you try to make sure, you make sure everything's in place. The coaches doing their drills, what gear do they need to make sure they are able to do their drills? And you make sure things are in place. And whether running in practice, whether you're spotting the ball, whatever you do, you make things go smoothly so things won't go unbalanced. So that's very important.
We can't stop without also your feelings about the McCaskey family.
Jeff, I tell you one thing. There's no one else in this world that's like the McCaskey family. And I said they're so special to me, and they're so special to a lot of people in this world. I say every day how honored I am. Chills come to me, and I said we're history. This is history. They started this whole thing. The Hallis family, McCaskey family. It is so special to me, and again, they're so dear to me. And I often say, hey, chills come to me, and that is really true when you start thinking about the McCaskey family, the Hallis family, that started this whole thing. And people sometimes forget that. But, to have ownership like the McCaskey families, you could not have anything better. There's nobody in the NFL like the McCaskey family. And, again, that's very, very special to me.
And they'll keep making history. All right, that's going to wrap us up. Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. It was a treat for Tom and I. We love you. We appreciate you. We love seeing your smiling face every day. So thank you for this time. We know it's valuable, Tom, because his phone's been going off nonstop. So he's got some work to do.
Listen, I found myself didn't know what I would ask him after knowing him for 30 plus years, and now I have 10 other questions I could ask him after the 35 minutes we spent with him.
Special thanks to Bears head equipment manager Tony Medlin. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. T-Med, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Bear down.
Awesome, Tony.